All right, so Neil Marshall's 2005 film, The Descent, which is a UK film. When I first saw this movie, it was a breath of fresh air, man, for like creature feature movies and monster movies. Great effects on the kills in this, great effects on the creatures, like awesome stuff throughout, and just the whole setting in the caves. It's fucking tense, man. Like you could not. I'll get into that. So we have Sarah who loses her husband Paul and daughter Jessica in a car accident, and just seeing that car accident scene in the beginning with the pipe going through the windshield, like reminds me of something that like Final Destination, with like a few of the pipes crashing through the windshield and one impales Paul right through the head. Cool effects on that. And just the characters in this movie, like we have an all female cast and they all do a great job, and the chemistry between them is great. Like you can tell that just from the portrayal of their characters, they feel like a nice group of friends. They feel very close. They feel like they've been friends for a long time, and you kind of need that for like a movie like this. For a group of friends that are going down into this cave system, it helps the believability just knowing that they have a history together and that they're this like close knit group of friends, and then just plus all the emotional stuff going on with Sarah. That this is a year after the accident, so just trying to get her back to normal. Her friends are trying to get her mind off of everything and take her to this creepy ass cave is a way to do that, I guess. But there's some beautiful scenic shots. Like before they enter the cave, I'm pretty sure they shot this in Scotland. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure they did though, but it looks beautiful. Some of the scenic shots they have here. And then there's a, I don't even know if this is supposed to be a jump scare or what. Like one of the women gets into the shower and turns it on and then like screams as if it's like scalding hot water, but then you just see her like opening her mouth in front of a mirror, like in the bathroom. I don't know. Like, was that supposed to be a jump scare? Like her getting in the water, we think, oh shit, something's happening, and then she's just like chilling in the bathroom. I don't know what that's all about. Like, that's kind of weird. And then they take the picture together, which is cool actually. And I don't know why I remember them showing that picture at the end of the movie, because they didn't like this time. So maybe I just remember the picture being taken and then like I don't know. I remember them showing it again, like at the end, to kind of like show like this was the group of friends and Sarah's the only one left. Apparently, I don't know why I remember that because it wasn't on this viewing. So I'm pretty sure I'm just making that up. So it's definitely possible. Then aren't they all professionals? Like aren't they've all done this before, right? Like exploring caves, because one of them is like explaining like what can happen down there, and that you can have panic attacks and you can have hunger and your mind plays tricks on you, your eyes play tricks on you, it could be difficult to breathe and you might panic yourself out. Like they've all done this before, right? Like none of them are virgins on this trip, like to go cave exploring, right? Like they've all done potholing before, right? Like I really hope so, because if any of them knew that one of them had never done this before and decided to take them along, that's fucked up. Like you do not bring someone, especially when we find out that this is an undiscovered cave and never been like looked into before or found, and that Juno completely screwed them. And we get a really cool shot when they first come down and enter the cave. Like I like with the light shining down from the outside and stuff down into the cave. Cool little shot. And you couldn't pay me to go do this. Like you couldn't pay me all the money in the world to go exploring a cave system like this. Like at all. Like I've said on here numerous times. I have bad anxiety, I have bad depression over the years, half my life probably. Just from the anxiety alone, from being in underground in these cave systems that you don't know where the hell you are, where to go. It's dark as shit. Don't even have to add the fucking creatures in. Like that's what makes this movie pretty effective, is that it doesn't even need the fucking creatures. It doesn't. Like this movie's terrifying just being in the situation that they're in. Being trapped in this underground cave system that no one's ever been to, doesn't know exists, and it's all Juno's fault. Like, it's all that bitch's fault for bringing them to a totally different cave than they were planned to go for, that they had emergency contingencies, plans and stuff set up for her. If they get lost, people can come look for them. Nope. She just says, screw it, I'm not going to tell anybody. We're going to go to this totally other different location and discover it together. I mean, come on, really? Like, all the things that happen in this movie is Juno's fault. Like, 100%. And there's a tense scene with Sarah and crawling through the tunnels, which, that's a tense scene for me, any movie. Like, that's gotta be terrible. Like, being stuck in such a confined little space, like a tiny-ass tunnel like that you have to crawl through. I wouldn't be able to make it through that tunnel. I'd be freaking out. Like, that's something I do not ever want to be in that situation. Being just in a tunnel that's barely bigger than yourself, that you can just get to a certain point and you're stuck. Then what? You're screwed. Like, there's nothing you can do. Then they had the cave-in, which is even worse, because now there's no way out. And they gotta hope and bank on the fact that there could be another way out. I don't know, man. That's so fucking scary. Like, I can't imagine. Like I said, don't even need the monsters for this. Just have the rest of the movie just be them trying to find their way out of the caves. Wouldn't be as eventful, yeah, but it would still be fucking, like, real terrifying. And then, yeah, I said about Juno and how she's an idiot. And then there's cave markings in there, like on the walls, and they look like old caveman-like paintings. They don't look like anything like modern day or anything like that. And if it is like cavemen, because I'll get into like what the creatures are, but it kind of makes sense, like why those markers are there and stuff. Like, it kind of makes sense when you know like what the director wanted these creatures to be and the way that they come off, because what he wanted them, envisioned them to be for this movie, and the way they pulled it off, is pretty much the explanation you come to on your own, like watching this. So he did a good job with envisioning what exactly these monsters are that are living in this cave. And again, it makes sense why those cave markings are there. Then Holly falls because she's an idiot, because as soon as you see the light, she just runs towards the light and she falls down a hole and breaks her leg, which is, once the monsters appear after that, that's when you gotta just see it. Like, I mean, as cruel as it sounds, you're the one who stupidly ran towards the light and fell down and broke your leg. We're not carrying your ass around. We gotta get out of here. Like, that's what we gotta do in that situation. Survival of the fittest. And Holly does not deserve that title. And then we get the first shot of the crawler when Sarah's looking down the tunnel, and you just see the crawler thing. That's what the director calls these, because I read up on this a little bit. They're called crawlers. So Sarah sees one of the crawlers, and that's such a cool shot. That first time that you see it, like real quick, and as soon as the light shines on it, it scatters away. Really, really cool. Then they find hundreds of animal bones, which I'm out. Like as soon as I saw that, I knew something is wrong here. Like, there's no way all those animal bones get into a cave system from nowhere. Like, there's something down here, and I'd be freaking the fuck out. Of course, I can't say I'm out because there's no way to go because of the cave-in. So you'd have to find your way and push forward. But just seeing those hundreds of animal bones, man, I would be freaking out. Like, absolutely. And then we get the first scene with the crawler when they're all freaking out and one of them starts screaming for help, and then just one of them is just right behind them and just attacks one of them. Awesome stuff. And then rips Holly's throat out, and the gore looks awesome. Then Juno ends up killing the crawler, and she becomes a badass at doing this in the sequel, which I'll get to. And it's not really her fault for killing Beth. Like, if you think about it, like, she's adrenaline pumping, fear, anxiety, all of that from just the cave situation. Not even these monsters that just showed up. But then add the monsters on top of it, and she's fucking fighting for her life, and she kills this thing. She hears a noise behind her. You're gonna react, like out of survival. So just her turning around and stabbing Beth in the neck, it's sad. It sucks. But I can't blame Juno. I can't. Like, even though I don't like her character, and I can blame her for like 99% of everything else that happens in this movie. I just I don't blame her for that. Like, imagine yourself in that position, that you're in a dank ass, deep cave system that's never been explored, that they know of, and now there's these fucking bat like creatures coming after you. And now they're attacking you. And you just killed one, you hear a sound behind you. First thing I would do is turn around swinging. So you can't really blame her for killing Beth, even though it's a sad scene. Like, can't blame her, because I would have done the exact same thing. You don't know who that is behind you, and it's better to fucking swing first, ask questions later in that situation. And the sound design is great in this movie. Like, with all the crawlers, with their sounds, with their gurgling, their clicking noises and stuff. Really, really cool stuff. And they figure out that the crawlers are blind and that they hunt using just their hearing, which they have excellent hearing, like bats. So what are they? So what I always took from it is that they were just human beings that evolved from living down in the caves for generations and just evolved into these creatures that are able to, use their hearing to hunt, and that they're blind and they adapted just to living down there in the caves, which is pretty close to what the director says they are. He says that he likes to think of them as back when they were cavemen. Some of them didn't leave the caves, and they just ended up evolving into these creatures, which makes sense. Like, he wanted them to look as, like, to feel human. Like, not just these, like, completely, like, illogical, like, unexplainable monsters and creatures that are down there. He wanted them to have, like, a human aspect to them, which they do, and it comes across that way very well. And I think it's even more terrifying, the fact that there's, like, a logical explanation, kind of what these things are. That they used to be regular human beings, so like they used to be cavemen, and they just never left, and they ended up just evolving into these creatures, which I think is really cool. And you can pretty much deduce that, and that's why the cave paintings make sense and stuff, because if this is where cavemen used to live, like all of these, hundreds and thousands of years ago, whatever it is, it would make sense that there's markings in there. Whether it was them themselves, the creatures, before they started evolving over all those years into what they are, or it was cavemen that left the caves, the smart ones, that didn't just stay behind in there. But either way, works really cool with the whole explanation and insinuation of what these creatures are. Then we have cool lighting with the glow stick that they use in some of the scenes, with the green lighting and stuff on the cave walls. Really cool. Then we have the pendant that comes into play, and we find out that Juno had an affair with Sarah's husband, Paul, and that's why she makes that comment earlier in the movie, like, we all lost something in that car wreck. So she had an affair with Paul, and Sarah finds Beth, and that's a sad scene, man, when she finds Beth, and then she has to put her out of her misery, and she has to just smash her head in with a rock. Like, that's fucking terrible. And she tells her, and that's where she gets the pendant. She tells her Juno left her there, and that Juno had an affair and stuff with your husband. Like, not the right time to, like, air that type of information out. You don't drop a bomb like that on somebody while you're in this situation. Like, while you're in the cave system and you can't get out, being hunted by these crazy bat creatures. Not good time, Beth, for, like, letting this information out. I know she only had a little bit of life left in her, but she should have recorded it on her camera than just, like, handed it to Sarah. Say, here, watch this later. Like, not now, because it's going to drive you even more nuts. And then she ends up stabbing the crawler in the eye, which looks really cool and kind of reminds me of Fulci a little bit, like, kind of like that effect. And then there's cool shots with Dead Sam hanging from the ceiling in the room with the, like, a chasm, like the abyss that they could fall into. And then Becca gets eaten alive, which looks awesome. Like, the gore looks great on that, when she's, like, climbing through the tunnel, and the creature crawler comes up and starts just eating away at her stomach and stuff. Really cool gore, really cool effects. And then Juno, with her lie about seeing Beth die, when Sarah says to her, like, you saw Beth die, and she shook her head. So she's lying about it. Just the whole tension between the two of them works very well for me too in this movie. Just knowing that there's that whole affair thing between Juno and Sarah with the husband, and how that all comes into play, and how that ties into what Sarah decides to do at the end here. She just stabs Juno in the leg, man, with a pickaxe, and just leaves her to die. Like, and I could see that. I could definitely see her doing that. Does it play into like her character, like how she's supposed to be, like when we first meet her? Not really. She doesn't seem like a cold-blooded person like that. But after the situation she's been in through this movie, and finding out about the affair, and losing her husband and her daughter a year before that, like, I can definitely see her doing this. Especially the fact that she just found out about the affair and Juno was fucking her husband. Like, in that moment, after everything you've gone through, you're not thinking straight. So her just leaving Juno for dead, I don't really blame her, man. I really don't. And then you see all the crawlers closing in on her. Now, there's two endings in this movie. There's the US ending, which is so stupid, which is usually the case with UK, British movies that have alternate endings. It's always the United States endings have to be the stupid jump scare right at the ending, and then there's always a better ending, like with the original one. So where the US ending is that Sarah escapes, and then she gets into the car, and then she sees Juno's ghost right next to her, and then it ends. Stupid. I don't like that at all. But then the whole extended, like, original ending is after she sees Juno's ghost, she wakes up back in the cave system. And she has like a hallucination of the birthday cake of her daughter Jessica, that she's there with her sort of in this hallucination. And then it just turns into her her light, her flashlight, her torch. And then you just hear the sounds of crawlers like closing in. And it ends like that. Much, much better than just the stupid jump scare with Juno's ghost in the end of the US cut. Much better with the other one, but with both of them, it's not, the sequel doesn't make sense. Like, if you try to go either way with one of those endings or the other ones, and I'll get into that in a few minutes. But that's The Descent. What a cool movie. Like, I haven't seen this movie in a while, so it was a fun little rewatch. And yeah, just the atmosphere of this movie, just the creepiness of the cave and the whole setting that it's located in this whole cave system. It's very, very effective location to then throw all these crazy creatures into the mix and have all these people getting picked off one by one. Really, really great movie. So The Descent 2 coming up next. I'll see you there.